got to take a look at the US markets.
Absolutely, and it's the first trading session that the US had yesterday after the election outcome was rolled in, and lots to talk about in fact when it comes to the US markets. But first of all, let's take a look at what the indices have done on an individual basis, because what stellar moves being seen on the US front. If you take a look at the Dow, that was up more than 3.5%, a 1500 point uptick coming in intraday on the Dow. I don't remember seeing these levels on an intraday basis, at least for the Dow. S&P 500 also 150 point uptick, a 2.5% increase coming in. Nasdaq also almost 3% higher, a 545 point uptick coming in on that one as well. You had the small cap Russell 2000 also, that was up 5.8%, in fact a 130 point uptick coming over there also. And surprisingly, the US VIX was lower by 20.6%. So very massive moves, if we could call that, we've seen on Wall Street yesterday, and the Dow is one to highlight because 1500 point intraday uptick is something that we haven't seen in a very long time for the Dow. But stock futures, when you talk about that looked rather flat last night after a huge market rally following Donald Trump's decisive victory in the presidential election. Now traders are awaiting the Fed Reserve's interest rate decision today, and Trump's triumph in the race for the White House has spurred a surge in stocks that sent the Dow soaring by more than 1500 points, like we mentioned earlier. And Bitcoin also was the one to watch out for. US dollar and bank stocks all jumped as part of Wednesday's post-election advance. Now, on the other hand, several international funds and solar stocks struggled as investors expected the president-elect's policies to hurt these names. So, of course, there are sectors like banking that have done well, but there are also some pockets in the market that struggle because Trump's policies may or may not favor these sectors going ahead. Market participants on Thursday will closely monitor the Fed Reserve's interest rate decision and Chair Jerome Powell's subsequent press conference. Fed funds futures are currently pricing in a 100% likelihood that the central bank lowers the borrowing cost at this gathering, according to CME Group's Fed Watch tool. Now, this would mark the second straight cut after the Fed's decrease in September, which was the first since 2020. Now, before the afternoon announcement, afternoon US time, of course, traders will follow economic data on jobless claims as well as wholesale inventories. On the earnings front, you have Moderna, Warner Brothers Discovery before the bell on Thursday, and results for Block, Pinterest, and Rivian are due in the afternoon US times as well. So, largely, this is what the US is looking like. Very stellar moves coming in. Just before we move on, let me mark the US 10-year yield, because that has posted a huge lead to 4.43% on Trump's win and the possible GOP Congress sweep as well. So US 10-year at 4.435. That's largely what the US bond yield did. Bitcoin also very quickly has hit a record high of 76,000. Slightly receded below that at 75,600 right now, but almost a 9% uptick coming in on Bitcoin alone. Ether also 16% higher. So it's looking healthy for the cryptos this morning as well, Shansi.
Well, absolutely, but can't really say the same about oil, because when you take a look at crude prices, you're looking at a slight fall coming as investors are weighing a strong US dollar against the potential that US President-elect Donald Trump his foreign policy plans could squeeze global oil supply as well. So when you take a look at price moves, you're looking at Brent crude falling just about 61 cents or 0.8% there, about $74 per barrel is where that one was at. And when you take a look at US WTI as well, you're looking at a drop of just about 30 cents or 0.4% coming in for that one as well. A close around that $71 per barrel level as well for WTI. When you take a look at what we're keeping an eye on, Trump's election triggered a large sell-off that pushed oil prices down by more than $2 per barrel during the session as the US dollar rallied, currently at its highest since September 2022. Now, mind you, a stronger dollar does make greenback-denominated commodities, the likes of oil, more expensive for holders of other currencies, and also tends to weigh on prices. So, oil prices have since recouped some losses, though, made during early trading. Trump's re-election could also mean the renewal of sanctions on Iran, and on the other hand, you do have Trump's support for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that could also heighten instability in the Middle East. So that is something that we're keeping an eye on in terms of foreign policy and in terms of other factors that are likely to be important when it comes to oil prices. But let's also take a quick look at gold then, because gold prices slid more than 3% to 3-week low as investors piled into the US dollar after Republican Donald Trump was elected US president. So that is also something that we saw coming in, at least when gold is concerned. Risk appetite is improving, and on the other hand, you do have gold taking a hit on the back of that, as well as a stronger greenback. So that's the kind of roundup that we're looking at seeing.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.